Alfred, sharing great stories from East Stour.
If you enjoy local theatre, you'll love a professional one-woman show celebrating Hannah Maxwell's love of those productions, coming to East Stour later this month. It's all about how you define amateur dramatics.
I mean, the basic definition is that no one's really getting paid.
It seems obvious, but Hannah will delve deeper in her show filled with warm and witty observations about this much-loved form of entertainment. I Am Dram comes to East Stour on the 21st of November.
But with that, there's sort of how amateur dramatics sort of fits in as a sort of cultural phenomenon in England. There's a website called amdram.co.uk where you can look up all of the Amdram societies in the country. And there's something mad, like 20,000 of them. They can't all still be active, but it seems like you're never more than 10 feet away from an open audition for South Pacific.
Hannah has toured with her show from Edinburgh to Adelaide.
In other countries, for example, in Australia, they sort of call it either community theatre or rep theatre. But Amdram, within the world of Amdram, people are quite happy to use it.
It brings an authentic insight that only somebody from a long line of amateur stage performers could offer. Her show celebrates the quirks, triumphs and touching moments familiar to anybody who's ever been involved in local theatre.
There's a real aim for sort of not necessarily realism, but sort of making things look like the things they're supposed to be. I have a big painted backdrop. I think that's quite a big thing about, if you're going to be on the French Riviera, people better be looking at a painted picture of the French Riviera behind you. It's not going to be a sort of minimalist black box theatre thing where we have to imagine the French Riviera. Just mentioning it, you've got to see it. And then I have lots of things like sort of fake candles, so you can't have real flames on stage. So there's sort of these sort of remote control candles. Plastic flowers and things.
Hannah's first memories are rooted in Amdram. It's been in the family for generations around Welwyn Garden City.
I don't know if I'd even call it a passion. I was just born and raised in it. My family was involved in the same amateur dramatic society going back to 1929. So going back 4 generations.
And here, if you've ever taken part in a performance, perhaps at the Arts Centre in Shaftesbury, on stage or behind the scenes, there'll be plenty that strikes a chord.
There's a fun bit in the show where I talk about the infamous trope of the awkwardly long blackout for a scene change, which often happens in amateur productions. So there's a fun bit with that. There's some sing-along opportunities with the audience. I sort of adopt the guise of various members of my family, so you get to meet them and conjure up the image of the mainstays of this amateur dramatic society. There's a lot of people called Alison. There's a chap with fluffy hair called Peter who's always playing the piano in the corner. There's definitely a lot of humour there, but it's not taking the mickey to be hurtful, because I have a lot of love for that world.
It's not just repeating lines, it's about life, the sense of community and camaraderie that comes with being part of a show.
Amdram is this amazing community hub, and it can be a real lifeline for lots of people. Like their entire social life is based around this community group. And their calendar, their year is based around doing 1, 2 or 3 different shows and auditioning for others. So you have there's people that have known me since I was 4 years old who are still in all the shows.
Although Hannah admits sometimes in amateur dramatics, the bar is set quite low.
If you can vaguely hold a tune, you're in. Particularly if you're a man, because no amateur dramatic society can be afforded to turning away any men. I'm sure many groups would agree with me that sometimes there is an issue with quality. Perhaps occasionally some very high songs could maybe be transposed down a couple of keys. But where's the fun in that if you're not really giving it your best shot there? But there's some absolutely marvellous singers as well. There's some people that I remember in the Lithuanians growing up who would often get the leads who could have been professionals, like really marvellous performers. It was always a treat to have them grace our stages.
Which show that you've been involved in influenced you the most?
We did Annie Get Your Gun, Calamity Jane, South Pacific, the Hot Mikado, which is the jazzy version of Gilbert and Sullivan's Mikado. So I was always, because I left when I was 18, I was always in the ensemble. I was often a principal dancer, despite the fact that I couldn't really dance just because I was under the age of 46 and less than a size 18. But they were all marvellous experiences. The show, I Am Dram, really focuses on My Fair Lady, which is the last one I did when I was 18. And I auditioned to be Eliza. It was a little bit too high for me. And so I ended up being harmonising servants, which was great fun. But it was an interesting time in my life because I was coming to terms with my sexuality at that time. So I was sort of wearing more sort of boys' clothes, and I sort of cut my hair. So I was still auditioning to be Eliza, but I had to wear what's known as a wiglet. It's a little thing that you clip on the back of your head, which makes you look like you've got a bun tied up rather than a mullet that your friends cut for you.
Oh, and as you say, the show touches on you coming out as gay. So how do you balance the personal and, I suppose, the onstage comedic? Because life in I Am Dram is always amplified, exaggerated. So how do you work that balance?
I think in terms of the show, although there are plenty of very humorous moments, it is autobiographical, so the person is sort of built into it. So I guide people through humour and through stories, but there's heart and there's truth. I don't delve too deeply into the experience of coming out in and of itself. When it's brought up, and it's very briefly touched on me coming out to my mother and my grandmother, we realised that that might have been some kind of emotional issue when I brought it up, but it was vastly overshadowed by them arguing about who should direct the next musical.
What about I Am Dram? Is that something, when you've toured with this show, makes sense to people in Europe and Australia?
Yeah, so when I take it to Australia, there's a slight issue because they have loads of I Am Dram, but they call it rep theatre. So I have to make that very clear in the marketing copy so that they know that it's that. But people, there's a huge, because it's part of the culture transposed, I would imagine, across English-speaking countries. It's really big over there. There's a lot of people who have a lot of recognition for what those shows are. When I did it in Germany, I did it on some US military bases, which sounds completely nuts. But basically, the US military bases they built in Central Europe for the Cold War after the end of World War II, they were sort of set up like mini American towns. They have to have bowling alleys and cinemas and McDonald's, and they all have fully functional community theatres with amateur dramatics groups that have been putting on, West Side Story in the middle of Austria or Kaiserslautern since the 1970s. So I was invited to take I Am Dram over there because they've got these like absolutely buzzing community theatre groups from like the families of people who were stationed on the bases. So I didn't see any guns or missiles when I was there, but I did see a huge costume and props department. And they ate it up. It was just a load of Americans who are just part of this one amateur dramatic society. And I was a guest performance in their own, they were doing a festival of their own one-page plays that they'd all written themselves. It's lovely to be sort of, what would you say, seconded in to communities like that who totally get it because they're in the same kind of world, albeit very different.
So who will this show best appeal to, Hannah? Is it somebody who has trod the boards?
Oh, yeah, people who have trod the boards are definitely going to guess some of the in-jokes. But I think it's for anyone, because I think a lot of that world seeps in. People may know somebody's done that, or you have an idea about how that works. Particularly, I find older people who might know the words to "It's a Long Way to Tipperary" and "Pack Up Your Troubles." There's certainly plenty for you there. But if you're a young person and you don't know what I'm talking about, I do print off the words for you, so no stress. Sometimes get young LGBT people come there who maybe have their own sort of feelings about coming out or leaving their hometown. A lot of people in like their 30s or 40s who maybe left their town for uni or moved to a city and now come back to start families. They can get a lot out of that sort of hometown relationship. And lovers of musicals, really. Old, new, there's plenty of references there. But also it is, at its heart, something of a comedy. So if you just want, there's plenty of belly laughs there if you want something that's going to be not too tricky.
There's a lot to get in there. Do you get to deliver lines like a handbag as well?
I can't say that makes an appearance in this show. I will see if I have room enough I can squeeze it in.
You're bound to hear some more famous lines in any case. I Am Dram with Hannah Maxwell. It's been described as joyful and perceptive by the Scotsman newspaper. And you can see Hannah at East Stour Village Hall on Friday, the 21st of November at 7:30. Tickets available through Ticket Source or through the Arts Reach website.